Johnny Vedmore recently published an article exposing the hidden history of the mysterious World Economic Forum, who is currently waging war against the world with their Great Reset.
Great reset of all our economies, of all our societies, and of all our personal liberties. And remember, this isn't me putting forward this crazy conspiracy theory. This is them.
Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight the virus, but to shape the system.
We have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable path.
History would look at this crisis as the great opportunity for reset.
The Great Reset is a welcome recognition that this human tragedy must be a wake-up call. It is imperative that we reimagine, rebuild, redesign, reinvigorate, and rebalance our world.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset.
Reimagine, rebuild, redesign. Indeed, the so-called experts at the World Economic Forum in 2016 fantasized about what 2030 will look like and came up with what they described as utopia. And I quote, "Welcome to 2030. I own nothing. I have no privacy. And life has never been better," the World Economic Forum's experts predicted. But how do the World Economic Forum and the United Nations intend to bring about this utopia of theirs, this great reset they keep promising us? Well, they need national and state governments and other bodies to play along. And one of the key tools they are using is a three-word slogan: build back better.
An ambitious and responsible vision of how to build Canada back better.
And now is the time for all of us to begin to build back.
Young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, half of this cabinet, are actually young global leaders of the world economic forum. We penetrate the cabinets.
The change is not just happening. The change can be shaped by us. We have to prepare for a more angry world. How to prepare? Take the necessary action to create a fairer world. I see the need for a great reset. So people assume we are just going back to the good old world which we had, and everything will be normal again. This is, let's say, fiction. It will not happen.
There is only one way this pandemic is going to go. It's going to get worse and worse and worse.
The next crisis is already waiting for us around the corner, and it is the climate crisis.
Doctors will become employees of companies, no longer to be considered as the employee of the patient. Soon, new diseases will appear for which there will be no cure. He said that the purpose of these new diseases will be to reduce the population. He also went on to say that religion will be destroyed. He commented that the Bible will be rewritten with key words changed or altered. Education will slowly reduce the amount of information transmitted. Kids will not learn as much. The school year will be prolonged, including the teaching of students during the summer. Not everyone will be allowed to own books. Music will become worse with the specific purpose of changing the thoughts of the listeners. Identification will become required, with something being implanted in the hand or forehead of every American. Dr. Day continued, food consumption will be reduced so that its distribution will have to be controlled. Weather will become controllable to cause droughts and floods to reduce the food supply. He said world government will occur with an increase in the power of the United Nations. Inflation of the money supply would lead to a single banking system. Private ownership of housing will cease. Life heroes who exemplify old-fashioned values will disappear. Entertainers and celebrities, rather than the national heroes of the past, would be promoted as the heroes of children because they would advocate a wide-open lifestyle. And I want you to remember, as I said several times during that explanation, that these comments were made in 1969.
They believe a politician in the Canadian Parliament, if he comes out as a whistleblower, I think it's a very reliable source. And we also have it confirmed, I believe it was from the president of Ghana, who said the same thing. And it's basically their plan for this economic reset is that the whole world, or in Canada, this in instance is the Canada, they have to take the vaccine. And if they don't take the vaccine, they, according to this whistleblower, it's not my words, it's from a Canadian politician, and according to him, there were 30% of the parliament was against the laws on forced vaccinations. But the plan is that you vaccinate the entire population, and those who will not, you isolate them in facilities, call them FEMA camps or concentration camps, you can call them whatever you want. I'm
familiar with that. They call them isolation camps.
Isolation camps, yeah. And the idea is that then you get the offer, or the person gets the offer. You can either take the vaccination now and be released, or if you decline, you will stay in there indefinitely.
So what will governments do about this? I mean, what will governments around the world, or in Europe, for example, in your country, in Denmark, what do you think governments will do?
I just want to finish what the plan is. So their plan is then to come out and say we will delete all your debt, but on the condition you will never own anything in the future. So everything will be provided for you, but you won't own anything. And then they will also implement a universal basic income. So that it'll be communism basically. So that you will have the government will it clearly owns your body if it can inject you with various carcinogenic materials at their whim, and then you're not allowed to own anything. So it is basically a communist takeover. And I think that's a very credible source from them.
And do you think that could be possible here in Europe, in your country?
I think it could. I mean, they tried to implement this law on forced vaccinations, and we did our party. We started the demonstrations with pots and pans because we saw how it worked in Iceland in 2008. They had been demonstrating for months.
Though unlike you, we don't divide ourselves into countries.
White Rabbit.
We're one united people.
This is a day I've been looking forward to for a long time.
We're honored and privileged to be able to assist mankind with our knowledge and technology.
But the visitors didn't just get here. They've been here for years. For decades, they've been implementing a plan that will result in the extermination of every man, woman, and child on the face of this earth.
Behind closed doors on this New York campus, a secret gathering of some of the world's most powerful people. Gates, Buffett, Bloomberg, Winfrey, together with others at the meeting, including George Soros, Ted Turner, David Rockefeller.
That much money, that much power around one table. It begs the question, what were they doing? What were they scheming?
Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. But let's take a look.
These posing as humans established themselves in all facets of life, whether it be business, government, religion, the military. It took years. And once embedded among us, they set out to cause worldwide instability.
A new world order can emerge.
Unnecessary wars. Economic meltdown. Faith twisted into extremism.
What difference at this point does it make?
Tonight we're announcing the expansion of our healing centers. The goal is to open one in every major city across the world. We want to provide complete medical services to all.
You're talking about universal health care.
The idea of a Medicare for all.
But that's called the death panel.
I believe that's what you call it, yes.
They gain trust with the promise of friendship and technology, and of course all they're really doing is positioning themselves as the saviors of mankind. Positioning themselves as the saviors of mankind.
You've agreed that you're going to spend more than $100 million on this. Where is that money being spent?
You warned everybody about this in a TED Talk in 2015. You predicted this would happen.
If anything kills over 10 million people in the next few decades, it's most likely to be a highly infectious virus rather than a
I certify light translation by Chris Filer. Introduction. I certify that the following text is the absolute truth and no work of fiction. These are parts of a transcript of an interview I've made with a non-human and reptilian being in December 1999. This female being was already in contact with a friend of mine, whose name is given only with the abbreviation EF in the text, since some months. Let me declare that I was all my life a skeptic about UFOs, aliens and other weird things, and I thought that EF tells me just dreams or fictitious stories when he talked with me about his first contacts with the non-human being Lacerda. I was still a skeptic when I met this being on December 16 last year in that small warm room in the remote house of my friend near to a town in the south of Sweden, despite the fact that I saw now with my own eyes that she was not human. She has told and shown me so many unbelievable things during that meeting that I can't deny the reality and the truth of her words. I am convinced that this transcript contains the only truth and therefore you should read it. I had talked with her for over 3 hours, so the following transcript shows you only shortened parts of the interview, because she asked me after the interview not to publish everything she had told me already now. The order of the questions in this transcript is not always the same order in which I had asked them, so it may seem sometimes a little bit confusing to you. It was not easy to delete all the important parts she had asked me to delete from the transcript, so I apologize for the maybe unusual order. I'm in the possession of the entire transcript of the interview, 49 pages with some of my drawings of her body and her equipment, and also of some tapes on which I have the full interview. But I will not reveal this before I have permission from her. I will send this shortened form of the still fascinating document to 4 of my reliable friends to Finland, Norway, Germany and France, and I hope they will translate it into their own languages and into other languages, and I hope as many people as possible will be able to read and to understand the transcript. If you receive it, please send it to all your friends via email or make printouts and copy them. I certify furthermore that various paranormal abilities of her species like telepathy and telekinesis, including the moving and dancing of my pencil on the table without touching and the flying of an apple around 40 centimeters over her hands, were shown to me during the 3 hours and 6 minutes of the meeting, and I'm absolutely sure that these abilities were no tricks. The following is certainly difficult to understand and to believe for someone who hasn't experienced it. But I was really in contact with her mind, and I'm now completely sure that everything she said during the interview is the absolute truth about our world. Unfortunately, if I read the entire transcript and, much more, this very shortened form by myself, I have the strong impression that everything I've written sounds too unbelievable to be true, that everything sounds more like a bad science fiction story from TV or cinema, and I have doubts that anyone will believe my experiences. But they are true, if you believe it or not. I can't expect from you that you believe my simple words without evidence, but I can't give you that evidence. Please read the transcript and think about it, and you will maybe see the truth in these words. There will be a new meeting between me and her, again in the same house in Sweden, on April 23, 2000, and she promised me to give me maybe some evidence for her existence. In the meantime I collect questions which I will ask her then. Maybe she gives me permission to reveal more of the missing parts in the transcript and about the coming war. Believe it or not, this makes no real difference, but I hope you will believe. Ole K. Transcript of interview, shortened version, December 16, 1999. Question: First of all, who are you and what are you? Are you an extraterrestrial species, or can your origin be found on this planet?
Answer: As you could see with your own eyes, I'm not a human being like you, and to be honest, I'm no real mammal, despite my partly mammal-like body features, which are a result of evolution. I'm a female reptile being, belonging to a very old reptilian race. We are the native Terrans, and we live on that planet since millions of years. We are mentioned in your religious writings like your Christian Bible, and many of the ancient human tribes were aware of our presence and worshipped us as gods, for example the Egyptians and the Inca and many other old tribes. Your Christian religion has misunderstood our role in your creation, so we are mentioned as evil serpent in your writings. This is wrong. Your race was genetically engineered by aliens and we were just the more or less passive visitors of this accelerated evolution process. You must know, some of your scientists have already supposed this, that your species had evolved in a naturally completely impossible speed within just 2-3 millions of years. This is absolutely impossible, because evolution is a much slower process if it's natural, but you have not understood this. Your creation was artificial and done by genetic engineering, but not by us but by an alien species. If you ask me, if I'm an extraterrestrial, I must answer no. We are native Terrans. We had and have some colonies in the solar system, but we originate on this planet. It's in fact our planet and not yours. It was never yours.
Question: Can you tell me your name?
Answer: This is difficult, because your human tongue is not able to pronounce it correctly, and a mispronunciation of our names is very offensive for some of my kind. Our language is very different from yours, but my name is, I will try to say it smoother by use of your human letters, something like Shiashakasksh with a very, very strong pronunciation of the SH and K sounds. We have no four names like you but only a single but unique name which is divided and characterized by the way of speaking and which is given not to children, who have a known children name, but only in a special procedure in the adolescent age at the time of either religious or scientific enlightenment or awareness, as you would call it. I would appreciate it if you don't try to say my real name with your human tongue. Please call me Lassiter. This is the name I generally use when I'm among humans and talk with them.
Question: How old are you?
Answer: We measure the time not like you in astronomical years and in the revolving of the Earth around Sun, because we usually live beneath the surface of the planet. Our time measurement depends on periodically returning cycles in the Earth magnetic field, and according to this, and said with your numbers, I'm today, let me calculate, 57,653 cycles old. I have reached my adult phase and my awareness 16,337 cycles ago. This is a very important date for us. According to your human time scale, I'm around 28 years old.
Question: What is your task? Do you have a job like us?
Answer: To say it with your words, I'm a curious student of the social behavior of your species. That's why I'm here and talk to you. That's why I have revealed my real nature to EF and now to you, and that's why I give you all that secret information, and why I will try to answer all the questions on your many sheets of paper honestly. I will see how you react, how others of your kind react. There are so many crazies and liars of your kind on this planet who claim to know the truth about us, about UFOs, about aliens and so on, and some of you believe their lies. I'm interested to see how your species will react if you make the truth, which I will tell you now, public. I'm quite sure every one of you will refuse to believe my words, but I hope I'm wrong, because you need to understand if you want to survive the coming years.
Question: I've read your full statement, which you have given to EF, about this, but can you give me now just a short answer? Are UFOs real flying objects piloted by extraterrestrials, or do they belong to your species?
Answer: Some observed UFOs, as you call them, belong to us, but most not. Most of the mysterious flying objects in the sky are not technological devices but mainly misinterpretations of natural phenomena your scientists have not understood, like spontaneous plasma flares in the high atmosphere. Nevertheless, some UFOs are real craft belonging either to your own species, especially to your military, or to other alien species, or at last to us, but a minority of sighted craft belongs really to us, because we are generally very careful with our movements in the atmosphere and we have special ways to hide our ships. If you read a report about a sighting of a metallic bright gray cigar-shaped cylindrical object with a length of, there are different types, let me say between 20 and 260 of your meters, and if this object had made a very deep humming sound, and if there were 5 bright red lights on the metallic surface of the cigar, 1 at the top, 1 in the middle, 2 at the end, then it's likely that some one of you have seen one of our ships, and this means that it was either partly defect or that someone of us was not careful enough. We have also a very small fleet of disc-shaped craft. But such UFOs belong usually to an alien species. Triangular UFOs belong generally to your own military, but they use foreign technology to build them. If you really want to try to see one of our craft, you should have a look at the skies over the Arctic, the Antarctic, and over in Eurasia, especially over the mountains there.
Question: have you a special symbol or something like that with which we can identify your kind?
Answer: we have 2 major symbols representing our species. 1, the more ancient, symbol is a blue serpent with 4 white wings on a black background. The colors have religious meanings for us. This symbol was used from certain parts of my society, but it is today very seldom. You humans have copied it very often in your old writings. The other symbol is a mystic being you would call a dragon in the shape of a circle with 7 white stars in the middle. This symbol is much more common today. If you see one of that symbols on a cylindrical craft I've described in my previous answer, or on some underground installation, this thing or place belongs definitely to us, and I would advise you to go away from there as soon as possible.
Question: the 7 stars in the second symbol you've mentioned, do they mean the Pleiades?
Answer: Pleiades? No. Actually, the 7 stars are planets and moons, and they are a symbol for our former 7 colonies in the solar system. The stars are shown in front of a blue background, and the dragon circle means the shape of Earth. The 7 white stars mean Moon, Mars, Venus, and 4 moons of Jupiter and Saturn. We had colonized in the past. 2 colonies are no longer in use and abandoned, so 5 stars would be more correct.
Question: as you have not allowed me to make photos, what would be very useful to prove your real existence and the truth of this story? Can you describe yourself detailed?
Answer: I know that it would be helpful to prove the authenticity of this interview if you can make some photos from me. Otherwise, you humans are very skeptic. That's good for us and for the real alien species acting secretly on this planet, so even if you had such photos, many of your kind would say that they are fraud, that I'm just a masked human woman or something like that. That would be very offensive for me. You must understand that I can't give you permission to make photos of me or of my equipment. This have various reasons, which I want not to discuss with you further, but one of the reasons is the keeping up of the secrecy of our existence. Another reason is more religious. Nevertheless, you have permission to make drawings of my look and of my equipment I can show you later. I can also try to describe myself, but I doubt that others of your kind will be able to imagine my real look just from simple words, because the automatic denial of the existence of reptilian species and generally of intelligent species other than your own is part of the programming of your mind. Well, I will try. Imagine the body of a normal human woman, and you have at first a good imagination of my body. Like you, I have a head, 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 legs and 2 feet, and the proportions of my body are like yours. As I'm female, I have also 2 breasts. Despite our reptile origin, we have started to give milk to our babies during the evolution process. This happened around 30 million years ago, because this is the best thing to keep the young alive. Evolution had done this for your species already in the dinosaur age and, a little bit later, also for ours. That means not that we are now real mammals, but the breasts of us are not as large as those of human woman, and the size of them is generally equal for every female of my kind. My skin is mainly of a green-beige color, more pale green, and we have some patterns of brown irregular dots, each dot of the size of 1 to 2 centimeters, on our skin and in our face. The patterns are different for both sexes, but females have more, especially in the lower body and in the face. You can see them in my case as 2 lines over the eyebrows crossing my forehead, at my cheek and at my chin. My eyes are a little bit larger than human eyes. For this reason, we can see better in the darkness, and usually dominated from the large black pupils, which are surrounded from a small bright green iris. Males have a dark green iris. The pupil is slit and can change its size from a small black line to a wide open egg-shaped oval. Because our retina is very light sensitive and the pupil must compare this, we have external round ears, but they are smaller and not so curved as yours. But we can hear better because our ears are more sensitive for sonic. We can also hear a wider range of sonic. There's a muscle or lid over the ears which can completely close them, for example underwater. Our nose is more pointed and there is a V-shaped curving between the nostrils, which enabled the ancestors to see temperature. We have lost most of this ability, but we can still feel temperature much better with this organ. Our lips are shaped like yours, those of females a little bit larger than those of males, but of a pale brown color, and our teeth are very white and strong and a little bit longer and sharper than your soft mammal teeth. We have no different hair colors like you, but there is a tradition to color the hairs in different ages, and the original
Question: can you tell me something about the natural history and evolution of your species? How old is your species? Have you evolved from primitive reptiles as mankind has evolved from apes?
Answer: oh, this is a very long and complex story and it sounds certainly unbelievable to you, but it's the truth. I will try to explain it in short. Around 65 million years ago, many of our unadvanced ancestors from the dinosaur race died in a great global cataclysm. The reason for this destruction was not a natural disaster, an asteroid impact as your scientists believe falsely, but a war between two enemy alien groups that took mainly place in the orbit and high atmosphere of your planet. According to our limited knowledge about the early days, this global war was the first alien war on planet Earth, but it was definitely not the last, and a future war is coming soon, while a Cold War, as you call it, between alien groups is ongoing since the last 73 years on your planet. The opponents in this 65 million year old war were two advanced alien species, whose both names are again not pronounceable for your tongues. I'm able to say them, but it would hurt your ear if I tell you the names in their original way. One race was humanoid like your species, but much older, and was from this universe, from a solar system in the star constellation you call Procyon today in your maps. The other species, about which we know not so much, was a reptilian species, but they have nothing to do with our own species, because we have evolved from local saurians without exterior influence, except the successful manipulation of our own genes by us. More about that later. The advanced reptilian species came not from this universe but from well, how should I explain it to you? Your scientists have not really understood the true nature of the universe, because your illogical mind is not able to see the easiest things and relies on wrong mathematics and numbers. This is part of the genetic programming of your kind, to which I will come later. Let me say that you are nearly as far away from the understanding of the universe as you were 500 years ago, to use a term you will maybe understand. The other species came not from this universe but from another bubble in the foam of the omniverse. You would call it maybe another dimension, but this is not the right word to describe it correctly. By the way, the term dimension is generally wrong in the way you understand it. The fact you should remember is that advanced species are able to walk between bubbles by use of, as you would call it, quantum technology, and sometimes in special ways only by use of their mind. My own species had also advanced mental abilities in comparison to your species, but we are not able to do the matter string/bubble changing without technology, but other species active on this planet are able, and this looks to you like magic as it had to your ancestors. Back to our own history, the first species, the humanoids, had reached Earth around 150 years before the reptilians, and they built some colonies on the former continents. There was a large colony on the continent you call Antarctica today and another one in the continent you call Asia today. These people lived together with animal-like saurians on the planet without problems. When the advanced reptilian species arrived in this system, the humanoid colonists from Procyon tried to communicate peacefully, but they were not successful and a global war started within months. You must understand that both species were interested in this young planet not for his biology and undeveloped species, but for only one reason: raw material. especially copper. To understand this reason, you must know that copper is a very important material for some advanced species, even today, because it is, together with some unstable materials, able to produce new stable elements if you induce a high electromagnetic field in the right angle with a high nuclear radiation field to produce an overcrossing of fluctuating fields. The fusion of copper with other elements in such a magnetic radiation field chamber can produce a force field of special nature that is very useful for various technological tasks, but the base for this is an extremely complex formula you are not able to discover because of the restrictions of your simple mind. Both species wanted to have the copper of planet Earth, and for this reason they fought a not very long war in space and orbit. The humanoid species seemed to be successful during the first time, but in a last battle the reptilians decided to use a mighty experimental weapon, a special kind of fusion bomb which should destroy the life forms on the planet but should not harm the valuable raw materials and the copper. The bomb was fired from space and detonated at a point of your planet you call Middle America today. As it detonated in the ocean, it produced an unpredictable fusion with hydrogen, and the effect was much stronger than the reptilians had expected. A deadly radiation, an overproduction of fusion oxygen, a fallout of different elements and a nuclear winter for nearly 200 years were the result. Most of the humanoids were killed and the reptilians lost their interest on the planet after some years for, even for us, unknown reasons, maybe because of the radiation. Planet Earth was on its own again and the animals on the surface died. By the way, one result of the fusion bomb was the fallout of different elements and the materials created in the burning process, and one of those materials was iridium. Your human scientists today see the iridium concentration in the ground as an evidence for an asteroid impact that killed the dinosaurs. That is not true, but how should you know that? Well, most of the dinosaurs died, not all in the detonation but in the bad things which came after the war, especially in the nuclear winter and in the fallout. Nearly all dinosaurs and reptilians were dead within the next 20 years. Some of them, especially those in the oceans, were able to survive for the next 200 to 300 years even in this changed world, but these species also died, because the climate had changed. The nuclear winter ended after 200 years, but it was colder on Earth than before. Despite the cataclysm, some species were able to survive: fish, like the sharks, birds, little creepy mammals, your ancestors, various reptiles like crocodiles. And there was a special kind of small but advanced dinosaurs which had developed together with the last large animal reptilians like the species you call Tyrannosaurus. This new reptile was walking on two legs and looked a little bit like your reconstruction of an iguanodon. It originated in this family, but it was smaller, around 1.50 meters tall, with some humanoid features, a changed bone structure, a larger skull and brain, a hand with a thumb which was able to grab things, a different organism and digestion, advanced eyes in the middle of the head like your eyes, and most important, with a new and better brain structure. This was our direct ancestor. There are theories that the radiation from the bomb took part in the mutations of the organism of this new breed, but this is not proven. Nevertheless, this little humanoid-like dinosaur evolved during the following 30 million years. Of genetic manipulations, we were able to eliminate the dividing prone genes in our genetic structure. According to our history and belief, this was the time when our final reptilian race, as you see me today, was created by use of genetic engineering. This was around 10 million years ago and our evolution nearly stopped at this point. Well, actually there were some minor changes in our look toward a more humanoid and mammal-like appearance during the coming ages, but we have not divided again into subspecies. You see, we are a very old race in comparison to your kind, which was jumping around as small monkey-like animals in the trees at this time while we invented technology, colonized other planets of this system, built large cities on this planet, which disappeared without a trace in the ages, and engineered our own genes while your genes were still those of animals. 10 million years ago the small simians started to grow and they came down from the trees to the ground, again because of the change of the climate. especially on the so-called African continent, but they evolved very slow, as it is normal for a mammal, and if nothing extraordinary had happened to your kind, we wouldn't be able to sit here and talk, because I would sit in my comfortable modern house and you would sit in your cave clothed with fur and trying to discover the secrets of fire, or you would maybe sit in one of our zoos. But the things had developed differently, and you believe now you are the crown of creation and you can sit in the modern house, and we must hide and live beneath the earth and in remote areas. Around 1.5 million years ago, another alien species arrived at Earth. It was surprisingly the first species since over 60 million years. This would be more surprising for you if you would know how many different species are today here. The interest of this humanoid species, you call them Elohim today, was not the raw material and the copper, it were to our astonishment the unadvanced aped humanoids. Despite of our presence on this planet, the aliens decided to help the apes to evolve a little bit faster, to serve them in the future as some kind of slave race in coming wars. The fate of your species was not really important for us, but we didn't like the presence of the Elohim on our planet, and they didn't like our presence on their new galactic zoo planet, and so your 6th and 7th creation was the reason for a war between us and them. You can read about that war, for example, partly in the book you call Bible, in a very strange way of description. The real truth is a very long and difficult story. Should I continue? It's time for the development of, more or less, intelligent beings like you? Ask yourself, do you really think this accelerated evolution is natural? Then your species is more ignorant than I've thought. We have not evolved wrong, but you.
Question: I understand. But I have another question. You've mentioned many facts about the ancient war between the aliens 65 million years ago. This happened very long before your kind became really intelligent, as far as I have understood you. Why do you know so many things about that first war and about the evolution of your species?
Answer: this is a good question, much better than the previous, and I have not explained it properly to you. Our knowledge about the First War comes completely from an ancient artifact, which was found around 16,000 years ago from our archaeologists on the continent you call North America today. They found there a round plate with a diameter of approximately 47 of your centimeters. The plate was made of an even for us unknown magnetic material, and inside the plate there was another smaller crystal plate which contained an enormous amount of information coded in the molecular structure of the crystal. This memory plate was manufactured from the last bomb survivors of human race from Procyon already 65 million years ago, but it was completely intact when we found it. Our scientists were able to encode the messages and data, and so we heard the first time about the events which took place in the distant past and which led to the extinction of the dinosaurs. The plate contained detailed descriptions of both species, but more about the humanoids, and about the events and weapons, including the fusion bomb. It contained also a description of the animals and saurians on Earth, including our pre-intelligent ancestor species. The rest of our knowledge about our evolution comes from skeletons and from the back reading and encoding of our DNA. You see, we know the real truth about our roots since 16,000 years. Before that time, there was a more religious idea of our creation.
هيتم استهداف أماكن دينية فيها، إن هيطلعوا من تحت المسجد الأقصى أو من تحت أماكن دينية محددة، وأنا أعتقد إنه من تحت المسجد الأقصى هيطلعوا مخطوطات قديمة جدا، وهم عندهم قدرات عالية جدا على التزوير وإثبات الآلاف السنين عليها وكذا وكذا وكذا. هيطلعوا كم من المخطوطات اللي تبين خطأ العقائد الحديثة وتشكك الناس فيها وكذا وكذا، وهيلعبوا الموضوع ده بطريقة، بس بعد طبعا إيه ما يعملوا لنا شوية خرابات في دماغنا وكذا وكذا وكذا. هيطلعوا من تحت، وهم معدين لده فعلا، ان هم يطلعوا من تحت المسجد الاقصى بعض المخطوطات اللي تعود لالاف السنين قبل يعني
فبيشككوا في العقيده وبينسفوا كل
وهيحاولوا يروجوها على الارض وكذا وكذا. فاول مرحله زي ما قلنا تفتيت وعي الانسان، جعله على طول يساق لحاجات خرافيه وغيبيات وانتظار كوارث مش عارفه ايه في الوقت اللي بيتم مثلا تفعيل الحاجات وبتاع له، بس انت بتشتت له مخه. اوكي. تاني حاجه انك انت في المرحله برضو دي سواء هي بتحصل وهتحصل برضو على مستوى اعلى، انك بتستخدم امكانياتك التقنيه في عمل زلازل واعاصير وكذا 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 وكذا. اوكي. المرحله الثانيه في مشروع الشعاع الازرق هي مرحله تسمى مرحله العرض الفضائي، بس ده طبعا بعد ما تكون انت خلخلت الناس
خلاص لا في دماغهم
وانت اصلا انت شغال على المخطط ده من زمان، بالاعلام بالصحافه بالاقتصاد بالسياسه بالبتاع، بان احنا نبقى في منطقه الشرق الاوسط اللي فيها الرساله الخاتمه مشغوله بالصراعات من وخاصه طول القرن اللي فات ده. انت لا يعني خلاص بقيت مفصول عن العلوم اللي في العالم، بقيت مفصول عن المعرفه، بقيت مفصول عن كذا وحاطينك في الجهل والبتاع، وانك تفضل يطلع لك شويه مش عارفه جماعه ايه وشويه جماعه ايه وشويه قاعده شمال المغرب.
Question: What have happened with both alien species?
Answer: We don't know exactly. The surviving humanoids on Earth obviously died in the years after the bomb, and others of their kind and the reptilians never came back to Earth, as far as we know. Concerning the reptilian aliens, there is a possibility that it was physically impossible for them to return, because the matter between bubbles is sometimes in rapid movement. The current theory is that both species had ceased to exist during the millions of years.
Where can we find such a surface near entry to your world?
Answer: Do you really think I will tell you their exact location? If you want to find such an entry, you have to search it by yourself, but I would advise you not to do that. When I came to the surface 4 days ago, I used an entry approximately 300 of your kilometers north from here near to a large lake, but I doubt that you would be able to find it. There are only a few entries in this part of the world. More are far more north and east. As a little advice, if you are in a narrow cave or in a tunnel or even in something that looks to you like an artificial mine shaft, and as deeper you walk as smoother appear the walls, and if you feel unusual warm air streaming from the depth, or if you hear the rushing sound of streaming air in a ventilation or elevator shaft, then look for a special kind of artificial and smooth wall somewhere in the cave with a door made of grey metal. If you would be able to open that door, but I doubt this, you would be in a usually round technical room with ventilation systems and elevators to the depth. This is probably an entry to our world. If you have reached this point, you should know that we are now definitely aware of your presence. You are already in big trouble if you have entered the round room. But you should look for one of the 2 reptilian symbols on the walls. If there are no symbols or other symbols, you are maybe in bigger trouble as you think, because not every underground installation belongs to our kind. Some new tunnel systems are operated from alien races, including hostile races. My general advice: if you find yourself in a, for you, strange underground installation, run away as fast as you can. Such a secret door to our world, but it have happened a few times in the past.
Question: Back to your and our own history. You've mentioned the race of the Elohim who have created our human race. From where did they come and how did they look like? What had exactly happened when they arrived? Are they our God?
Answer: The Elohim came from this universe, from the solar system you call Aldebaran in your maps. They were a very tall humanoid species with usually blonde hairs and a very white skin. They avoided the sunlight, because it hurt their skin and their eyes. This was absolutely unbelievable for a sun-loving species like us. They seemed to be intelligent and peaceful at the beginning, and we started a more or less friendly communication with them, but later they showed their real intentions and plans. They wanted to evolve the apes to a new breed, and we were a disturbing factor for them on their new zoo planet. At first, They caught around 10,000 or maybe even 20,000 of your simian ancestors and they left the planet for some 100 years. When they returned, they brought your, now more human, ancestors back. Then they left Earth again for some thousands of years and the primitive pre-humans lived together with us without major problems. They were just afraid of our aircraft and technology. The Elohim had taught their mind and enhanced their brain and their body structure and they were now able to use tools and fire. The Elohim returned within 23,000 years 7 times and accelerated the evolution speed of certain of your kind. You must understand that you are not the first human civilization on the planet. The first advanced humans, who lived at the same time with less developed pre-humans, because the Elohim had experimented with different speeds and stages of evolution, with technology and speech existed around 700,000 years ago on this planet. Your scientists have not understand this, because they found only the bones of the pre-humans and some primitive cave drawings showing advanced humans and flying devices. This genetically advanced human breed lived together with us, but they avoided contact with my kind, because the Elohim teachers had warned them with misleading purpose that we are evil beings and that we lie to them. Well, after some centuries the aliens decided to extinct their first creation and they accelerated the evolution of a second and better test series and so on and so on. The truth is that your modern human civilization is not the first on this planet Earth but already the 7th. The buildings of the first breeds are lost, but the 5th civilization was the one which built the large triangular constructions you call Egyptian pyramids today around 75,000 years ago. Your Egyptians just found that large ancient pyramids in the sand and tried not very successful to build similar constructions, and the 6th civilization was the one which built the cities which ruins you can find today beneath the sea in the so-called Bimini area around 16,000 years ago. The last creation of the 7th breed, of your series, was done just 8,500 years ago and this is the only creation you can remember and to which your religious writings refer. You rely on archaeological and paleontological artifacts which show you a wrong and short past, but how should you know anything about the 6 civilizations before, and if you find evidence for their existence, you deny and misinterpret the facts. This is partly a programming of your mind and partly pure ignorance. I will tell you in the following only about your creations, because the 6 previous mankinds are lost and therefore they should not concern you. There was a long war between us and the Elohim and also between certain groups of the Elohim themselves, because many of them were the opinion that the again and again creation of human species on this planet makes no real sense. The last battles in this war were fought around 5,000 years ago in orbit and surface. The aliens used powerful sonic weapons to destroy our underground cities, but on the other hand we were able to destroy many of their surface installations and bases in space. The humans of your series were very frightened when they observed our battles and they wrote it down in form of religious myths. Their mind was not able to understand what was really going on. The Elohim, who appeared as gods for the 6th and 7th breed, told them that it is a war between good and evil and that they are the good and we are the evil race. This depends certainly on the point of view. It was our planet before they arrived and before they started their evolution project with your kind. In my opinion, it was our right to fight for our planet. It was exactly 4,943 years ago, according to your time scale, that the Elohim left the planet again for unknown reasons. This is a very important date for us, because many of our historians called it a victory. Fact is that we don't know what had really happened. The Elohim were gone from one day to another. They vanished without a trace together with their ships and we found most of their surface installations destroyed by them. The humans were on their own and your civilization developed. Many of us were in contact with certain, more southern, tribes of your species in the coming centuries and we were able to convince some of them that we are not the evil the aliens wanted them to believe. During the time from 4,900 years ago to today, many other alien species arrived the planet. Some of them used the old teaching and programming of your mind and played again God for you. But the Elohim themselves never came back. They had left the planet for a duration of some 1,000 years or so earlier, so we expect their return one day in future to end their project or to maybe extinct also the seventh breed, but we don't really know what have happened to them. To answer this question of you in advance, your current civilization doesn't know anything about your real origin, about your real past, about your real world and universe, and you know very little about us and our past, and you know nothing about the things to come in near future. As long as you will not understand and believe my words, I tell you the truth because we are not your enemy, as long there is danger for your species. Your enemies are already here and you have not understood. Open your eyes or you will be in big trouble soon. If you haven't believed anything of the things I've told you before, then you should really believe and remember this.
Question: why do you think I don't believe you?
Answer: I have a certain feeling that you don't believe me, despite the fact that I'm sitting here in front of you. Everything I have told you in the last 2 hours is the absolute truth about our world.
Question: how many alien species are active on Earth at the moment?
Answer: as far as we know 14 species. 11 from this universe, 2 from another bubble and 1 very advanced from a very different plane. Don't ask me for names, because nearly all are not pronounceable for you. 8 of them are not pronounceable even for us. Most of the species, especially the more advanced, are just studying you as animals and they are not very dangerous for you and for us, and we work together with some of them. But 3 species are hostile, including the one which was in contact with some of your governments and exchanged their technology for copper and other important things and which had betrayed your kind. There was and is a Cold War between 2 of these hostile races during the last 73 years, and the 3rd species seemed to be the winner in this useless struggle. We expect a more hot war between them and you in the near future, I would say in the next 10 or 20 years, and we are worried about that development. In the last time, there were some rumors about a new, 15th species which had arrived on Earth just 3 or 4 years ago. But we don't know anything about their intentions and we were not in contact with them till now. Maybe the rumors are wrong.
Question: you mentioned earlier that you use the name Lacerta when you are among humans and that you enjoy it to be in the real sun on the surface of Earth. But how can you be among humans? You don't look like us, so anyone will see that you belong to another species. Why have nobody seen and described a being like you if your kind lives already since our creation together with us on the same planet? Can you explain that to me?
Answer: first, my kind was of course seen and described, and worshipped, many times in your primitive past, for example in your religious writings like your Christian Bible. You can find descriptions and even simple drawings of us for also in the southern part of the American continent on various temples. So-called wise men from India and from the Asian mountains have described our species many times in writings, together with other wise men from the African continent. I think we are the most mentioned non-human species, maybe beside the Elohim, in your history. If you don't believe me, have a look at your history and you will see the truth in my words. Your great scientists called the belief in us superstition and religion, and today's intelligent humans have forgotten our presence on the surface in the past. Furthermore, our species is seen even today sometimes from human witnesses in its original shape on Earth or in our surface near entries and tunnel systems, but fortunately you and your media didn't take the reports of such crazies serious. That's good for us, and that's the reason why we allow those people to see us as we really are. Some of my species are also in direct contact with human scientists and politicians from the surface, but this is top secret as you would call it, and nobody of your public knows anything about it. The matter of these meetings is generally the upcoming war with and between the alien species and our assistance in this war, but there is also another explanation, why we can walk among you and why you are not able to recognize us: mimicry. The following may again sound unbelievable and even shocking to you, but as you have asked I will explain it. I have told you before, that we have more advanced mental abilities than your species, and with more advanced I mean, that we are able to use telepathy and telekinesis from our birth on. In fact, mother and newborn child communicate generally with telepathy during the first months, without special training, as you need it to activate these sleeping parts of your brain. The structure of our brain is a little bit different to yours, and our hypothesis is larger and more active than yours, especially when we are in sunlight. Our own abilities are very strong in comparison to yours, but weak in comparison to the matter string/bubble mind forces of some of the alien species on this planet. I was never very good in that mind things, but we all have these primary abilities and can use them, for example for our protection or even for attack, when we are on the surface and we meet human beings, even a large group of them. This makes no difference. All of your minds are like one mind. We are able to touch their mind and induce them via telepathy the command "see us as one of your kind," and the weak human mind will accept this order without refusion and they will see us. Despite our reptilian look, as normal humans, I've done this many times, and you weak humans generally see me as an attractive brown-haired woman, because I have created this special mimicry image in my mind years ago and I can induce it into your minds without problems. I've needed some time at the beginning to learn the use of the mimicry correctly, but then it worked nearly automatically and I can even walk among a group of yours and nobody will recognize what I am. There is a simple switch: see us as we really are, see us as we want you to see us, in your consciousness, which was placed there from the Elohim when they created your kind, and we can use this switch to convince you that you see humans when you look at us. Other aliens use this switch, too. It is easier as you think. When there are meetings between your kind and aliens which seem to look exactly like yours, these aliens have used that switch, and some of the meetings with man-like aliens can be also explained with meetings with my kind. When I met EF the first time, he saw me also as a normal human woman, and I remember that he was very frightened and shocked when I revealed him my real appearance.
Question: do you mean that you can really make me believe that I talk now with an attractive brown-haired human woman instead of a reptilian being like you?
Answer: probably, but I don't think so in your special case. When someone expects to see a human woman instead of me, I can do it without problems with his mind, even with large groups, because nobody expects to see a reptile woman. But I have allowed your mind to see me in my original appearance from our first meeting on, and I have never induced something into your mind, so you have already realized that I'm not human. If I would now try to change this, it would probably lead to an absolute confusion or to unconsciousness, and I don't want to harm you. As I have said, I'm not very good in these things.
Question: that's very scary. Can you kill with those abilities?
Answer: yes, but it's forbidden. This means not that it was not done in previous times.
Question: have both sexes these abilities?
Answer: yes.
Question: what about photos? How do you appear on photos?
Answer: this is a silly question. I appear on photos as a reptile being, because I can't have influence on the photo or on the camera itself, but only on the photographer's mind. If he or she would develop the film and show the photo to others, they would see me in my original shape. That's the reason why it is forbidden for our kind to be filmed or photographed, and we must avoid every camera on the surface. That is very difficult, and we were filmed sometimes in the past without our knowledge, especially from certain of your governments and secret agencies.
Question: how can we protect us against this influence on our mind?
Answer: I don't know. I doubt you can, because your mind is like an open book to read and write for nearly every species I know. This is partly the guilty of the Elohim themselves, because they had constructed, or better misconstructed, partly intentionally, your mind and your consciousness without real protection mechanisms. If you are aware that someone tries to manipulate your mind, You can only concentrate on that suspicion and try to analyze every one of your thoughts and memories. Very important, don't close your eyes. This would lead to a different form of brain waves which are more easy to access. And don't sit or lay down to rest. If you stay awake during the first minutes, you can maybe try to filter the other thoughts and waves in your brain, and the inducer will give up after some minutes if he or she is not successful, because it will start to hurt his or her own brain. This is very difficult and certainly painful, and it can harm you, so better don't try to resist, but it would be the only possibility you have. However, you can try this only with a more weaker species, not with the strong.
Question: what do you mean with one species comes from a very different plane?
Answer: before I can explain that correctly to you, you must be able to understand the universe, and this would mean a maybe useless teaching of your mind, including the remove of some barriers, of many weeks. And with teaching I mean not only teaching by words. I have said this with your word plane or level because you have again no better word in your vocabulary, and dimension would be in this case absolutely wrong. It's rather wrong even for another bubble, because a dimension can't exist without planes. If you would be a species living in another or over the plane, and if you would be furthermore able to enter planes without technology so that your body is not made of that kind of matter, then you would be the mightiest being you can imagine. This very advanced race I've mentioned had developed outside of here, and they've evolved in fact over billions of years. They would be able to destroy all of you and us and everything with just a single thought. We were in contact with them only 3 times in our whole history, because their interest in your planet is different from that of all other races. They are definitely no danger for you or us.
Question: what will happen when the war begins?
Answer: this is difficult to answer. It depends on the enemy race and on their tactic. War is not always that primitive thing you humans mean with the word. War can be fought on various levels. One possibility they have is the destruction of your social system by influence on political leaders. Another is the use of advanced weapon systems, which can cause earthquakes or volcanic eruptions or other disasters, including weather disasters, which may seem natural to you. The special fields from copper fusion I've mentioned earlier are able to have an influence on your global weather. I think they will not attack the planet directly before the human civilization is weak, because even you have possibilities to destroy their craft, but not many. Let me say that we are not absolutely sure if there will be really such a hot war already in the next years. I don't want to talk further about this.
Has been making claims.
Claims about what?
You and everyone you know has a piece of DNA in your genome, put there without your knowing it.
Put there by whom?
Well, that's the question of the day.
This is an internet lunatic. You're not saying you believe him.
Hold on, Agent Einstein. You're talking to a scientist.
Forgive me, Assistant Director. It may sound insensitive, but the suggestion is pure science fiction.
What I'm saying, Agent Einstein, is that the facts, as I understand them, cannot be discounted out of hand.
No one has the right or the ability to tamper with your DNA.
Unless we gave them that ability.
You say they're tampering with our DNA, that they're able to shut down our immune systems by the addition of something to our DNA.
Yes, but I don't know how exactly.
Or how it's being triggered.
I don't know that either.
Or why it's happening now. What can we possibly do?
We need to act quickly.
You were right about that.
Well, I was wrong about the science. I was wrong about what's causing it. Dead wrong, in fact.
But it's clearly a widespread failure of our immune systems.
Through gene tampering. A virus within a virus that was put there through the smallpox vaccine. It's what these men are calling the Spartan virus.
We have to figure this out. What's wrong with the science?
Okay. The Spartan virus removes the adenosine deaminase gene from your DNA. Remove the ADA gene and your immune system will simply vanish.
Yeah, but I'm not getting sick.
It's only a matter of time.
Okay, so how does it work? How does the virus remove the ADA gene?
A process called CRISPR-Cas.
CRISPR-Cas9. RNA and a protein cutting genes at exact locations.
Exactly, but in this instance used as a weapon.
The ultimate weapon. The ability to depopulate the planet. To kill everyone but the chosen.
By tampering with their DNA.
Through gene editing.
Why do such a thing and lie about it? Our own government.
Your own government lies as a matter of course, as a matter of policy. The Tuskegee experiments on black men in the 30s, Henrietta Lacks.
What are they trying to do?
That's the missing piece.
But it's not hard to imagine a government hiding, hoarding technology for 70 years at the expense of human life and the future of the planet. Driven not only by corporate greed, but a darker objective.
The takeover of America.
And then the world itself, by any means necessary, however violent, or cruel, or efficient. By severe drought, brought on by weather wars, conducted secretly using aerial contaminants and high-altitude electromagnetic waves. In a state of perpetual war. To create problem, reaction, solution scenarios to distract, enrage, and enslave American citizens at home. With tools like the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act, which abridge the Constitution in the name of national security. The militarization of police forces in cities across the U.S., the building of prison camps by the Federal Emergency Management Agency with no stated purpose, the corporate takeover of food and agriculture, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, even the military in clandestine agendas to fatten, dull, sicken, and control a populace already consumed by consumerism.
And I encourage you all to go shopping more.
A government that taps your phone, collects your data, and monitors your whereabouts with impunity. A government preparing to use that data against you when it strikes. And the final takeover begins.
The takeover of America.
By a well-oiled and well-armed multinational group of elites that will cull, kill, and subjugate.
Happening as we sit here.
It's happening all around us.
The other shoe waiting to drop.
It'll probably start on a Friday. The banks will announce a security action necessitating their computers to go offline all weekend.
Digital money will disappear.
They can just steal your money?
Followed by the detonation of strategic electromagnetic pulse bombs to knock out major grids.
What will seem like an attack on America by terrorists or Russia.
At ease. Gentlemen, it's nice to meet in person again. The last couple of years have been an absolute success. We have created the ultimate chaos, and your obedience is appreciated. My great plan is coming together perfectly, and 2023 will be the most exciting year in the history of our planet.
Boss, is it because you're releasing the aliens?
No, Kim. We released the aliens in 2024. This year we're doing World War III, which will start sometime in late September, early October. Final date still TBD.
Who's going to be fighting in this one, boss?
No final decisions yet, but I'm thinking US Europe versus China Russia. Or maybe we just do a US North Korea war. Sorry, Kim. You'll probably lose that.
Boss, with all due respect, can we pull out of the Ukrainian now? Your point has been made and there is enough stuff.
No! I dictate when wars start and when they finish. Am I understood?
Yes, boss.
Yes, boss.
Yes, boss.
Moving on. So March 2023, we release another variant of COVID. Super contagious, but not very deadly. Just something that will annoy everyone. Oil prices will soar. Oil prices will soar. The stock markets will severely crash, except the GameStop, which will go to the moon. Political tensions will intensify in all nations. And lastly, the Tampa Bay Bucks will win the Super